There is a day coming up. You already know which one, and you have already decided quietly, without telling anyone, that you are going to let it pass. No plans, no dinner, no cake, no announcement. Just another day on the calendar that happens to have your name on it. You will wake up that morning and feel something you cannot quite name. Not sadness exactly, not happiness. Something in between. Something that sits in the chest like a word you keep trying to say but never quite find. And if someone asks you about it, if someone says, "Hey, isn't your birthday coming up?" you will do the thing you always do. You will shrug. You will say something like, "Oh yeah, I don't really do birthdays." And they will nod and move on, and you will let them. Because the alternative, actually explaining what is happening inside you on that day, feels like more than you are ready to give. But here is what I want to ask you. Not what you say about your birthday. What happens inside you? What actually moves through you on that morning when you wake up and remember what day it is and choose again to let it pass, like it doesn't belong to you? Because I don't think you actually stopped caring about your birthday. I think something happened. Something that made caring feel more dangerous than not caring. And this video is about that. When you were younger, birthdays meant something. Maybe not grand parties or elaborate celebrations, but something. The specific feeling of a day that existed for you. A day where someone, even just one person, remembered that you were here. And somewhere along the way, that feeling started to change. Maybe it happened gradually. One birthday where fewer people showed up than you expected. Another where the messages came in all day, but none of them felt like they were actually written for you. Specifically just copied and sent and forgotten before the tab even closed. Another where you made a plan and it fell apart. Another where you sat with people who loved you and still felt completely alone. And your brain, being your brain, started to learn something. It started to understand that the gap between what a birthday could feel like and what it actually felt like was too wide to keep crossing. It stopped expecting. Psychologists call this learned helplessness, the moment when repeated disappointment teaches a mind to stop reaching for something because the reaching itself has become the thing that hurts. Not the absence. The hope? You didn't stop celebrating your birthday because you grew up or got too busy or decided birthdays were childish. You stopped because hoping felt worse than having nothing. And somewhere very quietly, you made peace with the nothing. But the nothing is not actually nothing, is it? On that day, your day, something moves through you that you don't talk about. You notice who remembered without being reminded. You notice who sent the same message they sent last year. You can almost feel the copy and paste. You notice the people who know everything about your life, but somehow never quite show up for the one day that was supposed to be yours. And you don't say any of this out loud. You say it's fine. I don't really care about birthdays. But fine is not a feeling. Fine is what you say when the real feeling is too heavy to hand to someone who probably isn't ready to hold it. Here is something that researchers in psychology have found about people who consistently downplay their birthdays. They are almost never the people who forgot to care. They are almost always the people who cared the most, who felt the most, who noticed every detail of every birthday they experienced, whose showed up, whose didn't, what was said, what wasn't, what felt real and what felt performed. The people who say they don't care about birthdays are frequently the same people who remember everyone else's without being reminded, who plan the celebrations for others with more thought and intention than most people give to anything, who make sure the people around them feel genuinely seen on their special days because they know what it feels like when that doesn't happen. They give the thing they stopped allowing themselves to receive. And if that doesn't tell you everything about the kind of person they are, I don't know what does. There is another layer to this, one that is harder to say out loud. For some people, the birthday stopped being just a day a long time ago. It became something else, an annual audit, A moment once a year when the calendar forces you to stand in front of the mirror of your own life and ask, is this enough? Am I enough? Did I do what I was supposed to do this year? Am I where I thought I would be? And for people who hold themselves to impossible standards, for the overthinkers, the deep feelers, because they can always see so clearly where they could be. The birthday is not a celebration. It is a reckoning. Another year has passed, the clock moved, and the distance between who you are and who you thought you would be by now is visible in a way that is almost unbearable to look at directly. So the easier choice, the safer choice, is to not look. To let the day pass quietly. To avoid the mirror entirely, rather than stand in front of it, in a room full of people who are supposed to be celebrating you, while you are quietly falling apart inside. And then there is the thing that sits underneath all of it. The thing that is the hardest to admit. You don't want less on your birthday. You never wanted less. You wanted something very specific. Something that most birthdays in your experience have never actually delivered. Not the party, not the messages, not the cake, not acknowledged, not noted on a calendar, not wished well by someone who will forget by tomorrow. Celebrated. The specific feeling of someone looking at you, the real you, not the version you perform, not the version that is always fine, and saying, I see you. I'm glad you exist. Not because it is a Tuesday and Facebook reminded me, but because I have been paying attention to who you are. And you are worth more than a copied message and a forgotten tab. You stopped asking for that a long time ago. Not because you stopped needing it, because asking for it and not getting it hurt more than not asking at all. And so you built something very efficient. A way of moving through your birthday that required nothing from anyone. No expectations, no vulnerability, no hope left open long enough to be disappointed. Just another day. I'm fine. I don't really do birthdays. And the part of you that once blew out candles and actually made a wish, that part learned to be very quiet, very patient, and very good at pretending it had stopped wanting anything. But here is what I need you to hear. The fact that you stopped asking is not evidence that you stopped deserving. The fact that your birthdays have felt hollow is not evidence that you are someone who should expect hollow things. It is evidence of something completely different. It is evidence that you are someone who has felt the full weight of being unseen on a day that was supposed to be yours, and chose dignity over desperation, chose silence over performing a need that nobody around you seemed equipped to meet. That is not smallness. That is one of the most quietly painful kinds of strength a person can carry. And I want to say one more thing. To the person whose birthday is coming up, or whose birthday just passed, or whose birthday was months ago and they are still carrying something from that day they haven't told anyone about, you are allowed to want to be celebrated. Not the generic version, the real version. The version where someone who actually knows you, the part you hide, the part that overthinks everything, the part that feels things at a depth most people never reach, the part that gives to everyone and asks for nothing, sees that part and marks it, not with balloons and cake and a copied message, but with the simple, devastating gift of being truly known by someone who chose to pay attention. You were always worth that. The people who couldn't give it to you were not evidence that you weren't. If this video found you on or around your birthday, or if it named something you have been carrying quietly for years, this is what this channel is for. Decoded Psyche. Join us now.